Welcome everybody. As always, please do me a favor and let me know if the audio and visual is all good on your end. I assume it is, so I'm just going to hop right into the charts today. Well, guys, not much has actually changed since my last stream, but I don't think I'll be around for any live streams over the next few days, so I just wanted to give a real quick Friday afternoon live stream before heading into the weekend here. So first of all, guys, last stream, you may remember me mentioning that 108,000 US dollar level, just kind of as a strong level of interest for me. And that's basically why I've been once again looking aggressively for bearish STUBER short setups on the lower time frames. Those of you who are in my Telegram, you've probably noticed the increase in setups I've been sharing over the last couple days. And this is mostly because we have finally begun testing mid to long-term resistance, which makes the lower time frame bearish setups much more appealing to me. So that $108,000 level, that's just because this is a typical STUBER fib setup on the 4-hour, you guys. Notice I have 3 shorts open at this time. All break even stops, so whatever happens from here happens. I've already been taking profits. Those of you guys in the Telegram have been kept up to date with that. I just mentioned basically the first couple targets keeps getting hit, and then if it gets stopped at break even after that, I really don't care. At least, even if I'm wrong in that case, at least we can still profit off the setups, because as far as leverage goes, leverage isn't really the same as spot, in my opinion, where you want to hodl, leverage positions. Leverage to me is used for the quick, easy gains and then get the hell out, basically. I do like to catch those home run trades if they happen. The hodl positions, if they work out, great. But I'm never banking on that with my entire position. I'd rather take kind of scalpy profits first and then, hope that my position turns into a runner with the remaining half of my position or whatever. So basically, just looking at the structure for what it is, this is just a very clean STUBER setup, you guys. There's no messy structure down here or anything. It's just that here we had our low and we had a lower low. That means I'm pulling a fib from the top point or the highest point between the two. Just like I did back here, right? When we lost our uptrend here, I had a fib pulled from the highest point between just from the highest point where we reversed, right? So pulling a fib from here down to where we ended up bottoming, and notice where we ended up finding resistance was right in that pocket. So then after that, we set another lower low, and that's why I pulled this fib here. So the thing with this setup, guys, is that yes, it's great to see, on the 4, well, depending, I don't know if I'd say it's great to see if you're bearish and willing to trade the downside. Yeah, it's a nice, very clean setup. But understand that this could go higher, because the 786 is really just the start of my resistance. Like any trade setup, I know I always talk about the 786, 886, but that's really just the start of my resistance. After that, it's really not invalidated until above the 115 fib. And yeah, on a 4-hour, that's a big range. This is a very large range, but as from a swing trader point of view, that would basically be the start of resistance here at this 108,000 US dollars. The thing is, if this fib setup gets invalidated, we still have more resistance right up ahead, just because of how these ranges formed and how the lower highs have formed. Because really, if we end up invalidating this smaller one, the more micro one, well, it's not even that micro, just on the shorter time frame, right? Since our previous, or just our most recent lower low rather, I could just pull that fib right to the top of this bigger swing. And then obviously we have more resistance up ahead. And like I've been saying for months at this point, unless we actually break above kind of around 115,000 US dollars, until that happens, or the weekly RSI goes back above 70 or something like that, at that point I can get bullish again. But as it stands right now, the thing is, guys, that I trade chart structure. I trade charts, not tweets, not gut feelings about what the economy could do, what somebody's going to tweet about, what the Fed might do with rates and with printing money and all that sort of thing. The reason I love trading charts is because we're trading what's actually there, not what we're hoping shows up. And as it stands right now, unfortunately, with the, the 4-hour and up, We just have some bearish structure. We're setting lower lows. That's not a personal bias or anything. That's just a fact. That's what's in the charts. That does not mean it can't be invalidated. But at this point, that's just kind of why I'm favoring those bearish setups. If we end up invalidating this and blasting off and going parabolic, you know what? My investments are going to be very happy. But as it stands right now, just with my actual trading account, because you guys, this channel, or at least, when I'm on this channel and talking to you guys, I'm approaching it as a trader point of view, not so much looking for the, what I think is going to happen in the very long term. Yes, in the very long term, I'm very bullish on crypto. And that's exactly why, guys, that if a bear market actually does come, I'm not going to disappear. A lot of the people who think they're bullish right now, as soon as they start losing, 80% of their money, they are going to back off on being bullish, and they're going to back out of the market entirely. I've been through bear markets before, and I promise you, I will still be here. I will thrive in a bear market. You can thrive in both market conditions, you guys. That's the beauty part about being traders, is all that we really want is volatility. Like I said, you can be wrong and you can still make money. That's the whole, like I was saying with leverage, taking those quick, easy gains on those nice, easy setups. And from there, if you hit a home run trade, fantastic. But just kind of going, just looking at this on the 5-minute, you guys, these are all setups that I had mentioned in my Telegram channel here. But basically, we ended up losing this uptrend that we had on the 5-minute, right? Because this would have been our last higher high. That means the lowest point between the two was our higher low, our confirmed higher low. All right. I'm not considering any of these to be higher lows because we never actually changed the structure, right? Of course, there's smaller ranges inside bigger ranges, but on the actual uptrend, this was our high. This is our higher high. Since that, we've been in a bit of a downtrend. Like I said, this was a low. We set a lower low. So in that case, that's where we can pull a fib, right? From where we ended up topping. Here's where we broke our structure. We pull a fib there, and notice where we end up running into resistance is right above the 786, right in the middle of that STUBER fib pocket, right? From there, obviously, we set a new lower low. Well, where's the highest point between this low and this low? That would be right here. So let's pull a fib from this high down to where we bottomed out with our new lower low, and look where we end up finding resistance, right in that 786, 886 fib pocket again. So I'm not hanging on to these trades, or rather, I'm not hanging on to the full positions. I have hit, 2 of my range targets. Basically, that would be the 0.5 fib and the 214 fib, just like always. And from there, with a break even stop, and we just basically see what happens from there. Hopefully it runs. And if not, whatever, I've already taken profits on this position. Unfortunately, right now, some of you guys may be saying, well, should I pull a new fib from right here? There's not actually a new bearish STUBER fib from this reversal right here where I got my recent short from. Just around the 886 is my average entry. 107,552.9 is my most recent entry. So right around here, right at the 886. And that's because I hit 3 of my laddered entries, right? Just front running my 786, 886, and my 1 target. Never hit my last order, but that brought my average entry to around the 886 there. But that being said, guys, with this low right here, we never did set a new lower low, right? So here is where our current low is. And we don't have a new bearish STUBER fib until we have a new lower low, because that's the whole point of a STUBER fib setup, is you want to see that break in structure followed by a pullback, because then you actually, the market structure at that point is, it actually has some momentum, right? Because as we set lower lows, I mean, most people would like to try and short as soon as you break that support, because people love trying to FOMO into breakouts. And just look, I mean, this is a perfect example. If you try and short breakouts, just like if you try and long breakouts, breakout trading is very risky. And this is exactly why. We break our low, we shoot right back up. We set a lower high though, right? So this was our bearish signal. That doesn't mean short right now. It means it's time to look for shorts. Just like right here, I'm sure there was people momentum shorting right into support like that. And once again, we get that retracement. Same thing here. I'm sure there was people shorting into support. And again, we retrace up to that fib pocket. It's very natural to feel that way if you don't understand chart structure and understand that the market goes both directions, right? The price of Bitcoin loves ranging a lot more than it likes to go parabolic or inverse parabolic, right? Generally speaking, it's going to bounce around, chop around, wreck as many people as possible. And that's why playing fib retracements is one of my favorite things. And also just the fact that it has my entries laid out, it has my take profits laid out. So there's very little room for emotions to get involved because you have your levels laid out. And, you know, if you pull such a small fib that you're thinking, oh, that 0.5 or that 214 fib target is too close, I'm not taking any profits there. Well, if that's the fib that you're pulling, that is the range that you're looking to play. So if you don't take profits when you should, that's kind of your own demise kind of a thing. So as it stands right now, yeah, if we go up a little bit higher, obviously we still have potential resistance because the trend is still to the downside here. However, again, I just want to be clear about that. This is not a STUBER fib because this didn't go slightly lower. So that's where the chart can look very similar, but actually be quite different. And that's, you know, looking at the 4 hour here, the one reason why I really like this setup here, again, happy to be wrong, doesn't matter at this point. All of my stops could just be hit at break even at this point. But the reason why I really like this bearish setup and why I was so confident looking for shorts at this 786 is because there's no messy structure down here, right? I would actually feel significantly different about this if we set this low, bounced a little bit, and then set another lower low and then went something like that. Because at that point, we've actually continued our downtrend, but actually broke it, right? Whereas right now, since we didn't have any messy structure down here, and again, although it would look very similar, it would be very different structure because right now there was no further downtrend that was broken. Whereas if we set another lower low and then did it, it would have been broken, right? Something like that. So just something that can, that's again, kind of going to how I love micro analyzing things. That is a big part of it, is just noticing when there's actually a new trend that has been broken, because that just adds another level of risk to any trade setup. Basically on the weekly chart, you guys, you know, I've been pointing this out for, well, since about Christmas, basically. This bearish divergence hasn't been broken yet. And basically for me to get macro bullish once again, I want to either, like I said, break above 115K just because that would take out my swing fail invalidation level. Or if the RSI ends up getting back above this 70 level, I think that would show a very good amount of strength, right? The relative strength index. So in an uptrend like this, if we're overbought, you know, it's not so much meaning that we have to be overbought, but it's when we end up getting that divergence, we're approaching the same resistance with significantly less strength. That's when my red flags, radar, whatever starts going off. Not to say it can't be broken, but again, I need to see it broken before I flip into a total moon boy once again. The 4 hour, if this is going to play out, I mean, the targets for this 4 hour setup would be around 104.4K. That would be the 0.5 fib. The 214 fib for this range would be down around 100.8 thousand US dollars. And then double bottom territory would be around 98,000 US dollars. That does not mean, once again, that this has to play out. But if it does, that's kind of what I'm looking at. For those of you who aren't scalpers as much as myself, like I said, I'm more so trading the 1 minute and the 5 minute but I love to see that the 4 hour is kind of, you know, now that we're at the 4 hour resistance, that's where I look for those short-term setups more aggressively rather. You know, there is a chance here that we do go a little bit higher, and that doesn't even mean that this STUBER fib is wrong, right? Because again, just like I showed on the 5 minute chart, is technically if I was playing this if I was an actual swing trader and I was looking at swing trading this 4 hour setup, my entries would look something like this, right? So we could go significantly higher before this setup is actually invalidated, but we are now at least at the very start of resistance, right? And one thing to take away from that as well, I mentioned this in the last stream. I said that watch for on social media that, you know, a lot of the larger accounts will start celebrating right as we end up, sorry, getting tongue tied. People would start celebrating and getting very bullish and getting FOMO right at resistance, starting around 108,000 US dollars. And that's exactly what I started seeing on Twitter. So maybe you had a different experience, but that's kind of something that I'm starting to see. So, and again, just like clockwork, that's very typical because these STUBER fib setups, they work so well as bear traps and bull traps for the exact reason that as soon as, you know, people got wrecked down here trying to short, so then they see it start climbing like this and they think, oh, I was wrong, we're very bullish. But then resistance steps in, right? We have the momentum to the downside with this lower low here. So really, as long as we stay below this high at around 110.6 thousand US dollars, we still have bearish structure on the 4-hour chart. And that's all there is to it. Lower lows and lower high. The 5-minute, again, not much has changed yet. I want to bring up a couple indicators. Let's bring up the Trendmaster indicator. So something worth mentioning why I think we could go a little bit higher is we do have this higher buy signal. We have mixed signals here, actually. Those of you who know or watch these streams quite often, and you see me using the MDX Trendmaster indicator quite often, we do have mixed signals right now because we are printing lower sell signals on the 5-minute, but we have printed a higher buy signal. So right now I don't have strong confluence with this indicator at this point. Notice that the ALGO Master indicator did pull a fib, the one that I said I personally wouldn't from this high because it's not actually a STUBER fib. Don't get me wrong, the 786, 886 fib pocket still acts very strong at times. It just doesn't have that structure break favoring the momentum is all. Doesn't mean it can't play out. It just means it's not a typical STUBER fib setup is all. Liquidation levels, I mean, we kind of have them on both sides of things, so that's not really giving us an edge at all. Liquidation band is significantly lower than us, but it is below us, so therefore it could act as support if we end up testing that. AI charting tools. Notice that it was printing overlapping demand zones, these green boxes here. Notice how bright they got here because there's a bunch of overlapping ones here. Also printed a higher low here. So again, just kind of something that's going against the idea of a new bearish STUBER fib up here. But again, resistance is resistance until it's broken. So we're just going to have to see. Hopefully if you're either already in a short and you have a trailing stop loss or whatever, then yeah, you know what? I'm still going to treat this as resistance. Basically, as long as we're below 108,000 US dollars, I just have to remain cautious and bearish, if anything. If we end up breaking that 108,000, well, then we just have to kind of watch. Honestly, at that point, especially, actually, let me bring this up. The Trendmaster on the 4-hour. Notice that we have our lower sell signal here. So our pivot point was right here around 109,000 US dollars. If we end up invalidating this lower sell signal trend, and notice we have a lower buy signal, we have a lower sell signal, but if we invalidate that and break above 109,000, there's still resistance right above us. But at that point, I would be more so looking for rejections up in my swing fail area. But we're going to have to see what happens with that. But just a couple of important levels worth mentioning, in my opinion. I could even pull a fib from this level down to the bottom and notice that that is very much in play at this point as well. We are currently, well, here, let me erase a few things. And notice that we are currently trading right inside that 786, 886 fib pocket if we pulled a fib from there. But again, I don't necessarily agree with that level because of the structure here, the low here, lower low here, highest point between the two is up here. So I And that goes for as well for those of you using the ALGO master. Notice that the fib, actually, this is something I mentioned in my last stream, I believe, is that I was talking about that I thought this indicator was going to print the auto STUBER fibs right where I have mine laid out. And it looks like it's just recently done that. It must have been just been yesterday or today where it refreshed and printed the same fibs that I have. So again, good additional confluence to have there. For those of you who like using indicators, understand that for me, it's always market structure first, and then I look for indicators for confluence. And this would be no different. That I think before using something that gives you automatic fibs like that, I think it's important to at least understand when to pull them so that you notice that if, it might print those fibs and it might already be invalidated or, it may have played out already or something like that. So it's always good to be able to confirm it by yourself and then look for that confirmation. How are you all guys all doing this fine Friday, by the way? And how are you all feeling about the market? Are you excessively bullish, excessively bearish? You don't know what the heck is going on. You just want to wait until next week to wait for the markets to open again. How is everybody feeling? Thank you so much for being here with me once again, you guys. Cali Trader, what's up, Stu? Do you have a swing setup strategy? So the swing setup, I guess, would be the same thing, right? I still look at these STUBER fibs. It's just at that point, I would be using significantly less leverage because it's obviously a much bigger range at that point. But to me, chart structure is always the same. I don't care if it's the 1 minute chart, the 5 minute chart, the hourly, 4 hourly, daily, weekly. Chart structure is the same. And that's one reason, guys, I know I say this once in a while, I'm trying to make more of a habit of actually mentioning what these levels are, because I have such a hard time even acknowledging what the price is, because to me, structure is so much more important. These big numbers on the side, those are just recipe to wreck people emotionally. And it makes people throw technical analysis right out the frickin' window if they think that those numbers aren't realistic, but then they'll totally ignore the chart structure, which, this is one of those cases where, if this was a 5 minute setup or a 1 minute setup, so many people would agree with me that this is a valid STUBER setup. Whereas you bring it up on the 4 hour or the weekly or anything like that, and all of a sudden it becomes unrealistic. That setup just isn't realistic anymore, just because it seems like it's too big and it can't happen. But you know what? Chart structure is what it is. Like I said, I treat it all the same. It's just that, when I'm looking at a 1 minute or a 5 minute chart, that's where I'm more trading like 25x, 50x, 69x leverage, depending how tight my stop loss can be. Whereas if I'm looking at a 4 hour swing setup, then realistically, I'm probably going to be on more something like 5x, right? Because it's obviously a much larger range. But yeah, I treat it the exact same, structure the same. I use my indicators the same. I pull fibs the same. It's all the same to me. Yeah. So, Maz, as you said, retail are mega short, which is annoying. And I agree. That is one thing worth mentioning, is that retail, I don't have it pulled up right now, but retail is fairly short heavy right now. And that is, again, one of those reasons why I am very okay with updating my stop losses quickly after hitting a couple targets and taking some profits. Because, there's a few things. I can't totally discredit the bulls right now. I'm still favoring the bears because I would always rather be a seller at resistance. Just like I'd rather be a buyer at support. I mean, we all know you're supposed to buy support, sell resistance, but when it actually comes time to do that, it's very uncomfortable. However, being we are at the start, the start of mid to long-term resistance, I would always rather be looking for sell positions here. And honestly, you guys, there's a bunch of altcoins and meme coins and micro cap coins and all that sort of stuff that have very different market structure. I've been playing with some micro caps. There's one I bought about 3 days ago that I'm up about 5 or 6x on already. I've taken out my initial investment and I have about 5 times the amount I started with still sitting there risk-free, right? Those micro caps are total gambles in my opinion. However, if you can gamble for free and not let your emotions get the best of you and not get greedy, a lot of different coins and different assets out there, Bitcoin's at macro resistance, whereas a lot of different other assets are actually just starting to break their downtrends and stuff like that. So I still much prefer trading Bitcoin when it comes to leverage, because there's a lot of liquidity there. There's lots of trade volume. It's just there's very rarely any slippage, stuff like that. Whereas that's not necessarily the case in smaller caps and especially low volume trading assets. So I much prefer Bitcoin for trading. However, I don't mind getting my DGen on and doing some spot trading with the high risk trash of the market. So I'm not all bearish. It's just that, at around 110K, as I've mentioned in a few streams, I started taking profits on my Bitcoin. I threw some into stables so that, if we end up breaking that 115K level I was talking about, I can always buy back in. Just treat it like a stop loss. Just like any leverage short that ends up going wrong, you have your invalidation. So I can always buy that back. I'm really not worried if I miss that 5% move. If that's what people think is going to get me wrecked, that I miss 5%, then you don't have a lot of faith in the parabolic run that, everybody feels entitled to at this point. And also, like I mentioned, some of that Bitcoin just went and got diversified. It just moved into other assets. Some of it went into fiat, taking some profits, buying things, upgrading some life, buying some new kite surfing equipment that I've treated myself to on my birthday a couple days ago. All that sort of stuff, right? So again, I would just rather be a seller at resistance myself. It's not that I think Bitcoin's going to zero. It's not that I hate Bitcoin. I fucking love Bitcoin. I use it every day. I trade it every day. I love it. It's just that the main thing I love about it is the volatility. And with the volatility, I'm willing to trade either direction. That's all. Euhenia. Most weekends tend to be bearish, although we've had some very bullish surprises. So aside, the chart is in quite a sideways channel, ready for anything. That's the way to be. Honestly, don't get married to an idea. That's the thing. Being a trader, I say this all the time. I can't remember who mentioned it that I stole this saying from, but there's two career paths where you can make money when you're wrong, and one would be a trader and two would be a weatherman. You can be wrong and still make money. That's totally fine, because at the end of the day, analysis is great and it helps you with your execution, but the actual execution of the trade setup is what actually matters in trading. And that's exactly why I have this trade setup that I love. That's why I've started trading STUBER fibs so religiously, right? And guys, just a couple examples here in the Telegram for those of you who are interested in joining my free Telegram. Do yourselves a favor, scan the QR code. There's also a link in the description down below, a sign up bot that will take you through the steps to join. One of the steps is signing up and trading under me on BloFin. You have to deposit $300 USDT and it has to go into your futures account. This is not a payment to me by any means. It is your own money to trade with. But yeah, basically it's an active traders group. And just here's a few examples. Like I said, the last few days I've been posting a lot of these examples that, hey, we have these bearish setups on the shorter time frames. Here's another one. I laid this one out this morning well in advance, right? We were actually at the bottom of this range and I said, hey, we've set a new lower low. So this is the area where I'm going to be looking for a STUBER short. Look at that. We end up hitting my three of my first orders, average entry right around the 886, and boom, we hit first target, second target, and yeah, then we see what happens with the remaining half. Those of you who are interested as well, anyone on BloFin, this doesn't just go for my followers as far as I know. This is available for anybody. There is also a trading competition going on right now with some pretty cool prizes there as well. So if that's something that interests you, yeah, like I said, scan the QR code, or click the link in the description down below, get signed up, get access to a trading competition, my Telegram channel, and the exchange that I love trading on. So, Yeah, anywho, guys, like I said, this was going to be a very quick live stream. I do want to go out. It looks very beautiful out, so I want to get out of the house again. Storm passed, so time for me to maybe think about drinking beer in the sun here. So yeah, anyways, guys, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So hopefully you guys found this stream useful. If so, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss these live streams. And as I mentioned, if you want access to my private Telegram channel where I share some of my theories, some of my trade setup ideas, just my overall thoughts on the market in general, there is a scannable QR code on the screen and that link in the description down below. With that, I'm out. Thank you so much for being here with me once again, my friends. Truly appreciate doing these videos with you guys. And with that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.